The Seattle Seahawks have the chance to do something incredible right here, right now, guys. The Seahawks have a once in a lifetime opportunity to trade for a guy who I think might be the best defensive player of all time. We're going to talk about that and a lot more right here on Seahawks Now. But first, if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, hit the like button down below and comment down below. Should the Seahawks trade for Micah Parsons? Here's my take. Absolutely yes. Right? Obviously, the cost, you have to factor it in. Micah Parsons is going to be expensive. But when you're considering the best defensive player in the NFL, and I think that is probably the discussion he is in, it has to be a yes. Like, if you think you're going all in on winning the Super Bowl, and John Schneider says he is, and Mike McDonald says they are, Micah Parsons is going to get you closer to that goal. He is. There's no way that you trade for Micah Parsons and you get further away from that goal. Looking at the numbers, it's incredible. Last year, he started 13 games. He had 12 sacks. He had 12 tackles for a loss. So he was averaging about 1 sack per game and 1 tackle for a loss per game. He had 23 quarterback hits. By the way, that's the lowest in his career. That was considered a down season. Last year, he was still a Pro Bowler and still had 12 sacks, and he was 17th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. That was considered to be his worst season. His best seasons, when he's finishing runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year voting, he has 13 and a half sacks, 26 quarterback hits, 13 tackles for loss in 17 games. This guy's incredible, right? We know he's incredible. He has been the anchor of the Cowboys defense. I would say he has probably carried the Cowboys defense. Now he wants out. He wants a trade. The Seahawks should jump on this opportunity. How many times do you have the opportunity to trade for a guy like this, right? I mean, obviously, they could have done it for Trey Hendrickson if the Bengals were interested, but the Bengals, it sounds like they don't want to trade him. So really, if you want to trade for that elite defender, Micah Parsons is the way to go. And yes, he's available. He apparently hasn't even talked to Jerry Jones since the trade request. It honestly sounds like he's gonna get traded from everything I'm hearing. Now, Jerry Jones, he says he's not confident about Micah Parsons playing for the Cowboys. He says absolutely not. He's not confident. That was according to Ed Werder. They haven't opened contract talks. According to Jerry Jones, he is urgent to get the contract talks done. He says the fans should not lose any sleep over this. But then he also says he doesn't think he's even going to play for them. So I don't know. Jerry Jones is making no sense, but that's pretty much par for the course for him. From the Seahawks perspective, the path is clear. Give Jerry Jones an offer he can't refuse. Look, I know Jerry Jones says he doesn't want to trade him. I know that Jerry Jones has maybe a history of making players mad, making players upset, and then going ahead and giving them a massive, massive bag of money. And obviously, that's what Micah Parsons wants. He wants a huge amount of money. He wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. If it's going to happen, that means it's going to be for over $40 million a year. I think he's going to get it. I think he will. I think he deserves to. He's 26 years old, and he's the best defensive player in football. Yeah, he deserves to get that money. And I know that is kind of the history of what Jerry Jones does, is he will say things out of one side of his mouth, and then at the end of the day, he usually does open up the checkbook and signs these guys to massive deals. That's what he did with Dak Prescott. On the other hand, if you're the Seahawks, what you have to do is give him an offer he can't refuse. And what does that offer look like? It probably starts with your next year's first-round pick. Good news is you haven't traded it away yet. Think about this. Who are the Seahawks going to draft in the first round next year that's going to be better than Micah Parsons? I feel like that is the stance you have to look, because obviously trading first-round picks is not an easy thing to do. You are giving up significant capital. But who are you going to take realistically? If you have the number 13 pick, who are they going to take that's going to be better than Micah Parsons? Because if you think that, drop it in the comments. I want to hear your guys' take. Who are they going to draft that's going to be better than Micah Parsons? I couldn't tell you. Unless you're drafting a generational quarterback, that's probably it. And I don't think they are, considering they just drafted Jalen Milroe. So again, if the offer starts with a first-round pick, I would still make that offer. Let's say the offer also includes a second-round pick. That probably true. You're probably going to need to include some sort of a second-round pick in there, maybe a 2026 first and then a 2027 second. I don't know. I don't know where the trade lands. At some point, though, you just have to make the offer. And if the Cowboys say we need more, then you give them more, right? I've seen mock trades saying that he might be worth a first, a second, and a third. I've seen one that said he's worth 2 first-round picks. I'm not sure I agree with that. I actually don't think that he's worth 2 first-round picks. But at the end of the day, if somebody else is looking for if somebody else is offering 2 first-round picks, then that's what you have to match. Again, though, I don't think anyone will. I don't think for a guy with only 1 year left on his current contract, 2 first-round picks is a lot. So I think it probably starts with 1 first and then probably something else. Maybe a first and a third, maybe a first, second, fourth. Whatever it is, I think the Seahawks should make the offer. Because again, who are you going to draft that's better? I keep going back to this. It's the same thing with pay, right? Because again, if you trade for him, what do you have to do? You have to pay him a lot of money. You have to pay him $40 million a year. Can we afford it? Yes, we can afford it. We have $33 million of empty cap space this year. So we'd only be $7 million over the cap if we did it. And for the future years, we'd actually be able to keep it under the cap. So yes, we can pull this off. Financially, we have the ability to do it. And again, you're probably thinking to yourself, man, we can't spend $40 million on Micah Parsons. How are we going to pay Boye Mafe? And to that I say, why don't we just pay the guy who's the best right now instead of pay the guy who has potential to be the best, right? Boye Mafe's a good player. Derek Hall's a good player. Byron Murphy's a good player. You know who they're not is Micah Parsons. They're not Micah Parsons. If you have an opportunity to sign an elite player, a future Hall of Famer, you have to take that opportunity. Because Micah Parsons is a proven commodity, right? I would rather pay big money to the proven commodity than split the money up between 3 guys who might be as good as Micah Parsons someday, but so far they haven't shown that potential yet that they could be a Micah Parsons level player, and they're already in their 4th, 5th seasons. If they're not going to do that yet, they probably aren't going to. Maybe Byron Murphy, he's only in year 2, so maybe he could still get there, but at the end of the day, you can't think with the mindset of, oh, we have to save money for Derek Hall and Boye Mafe. When Micah Parsons, he's worth more than both of those guys combined. You have to be willing to open the checkbook and spend. Plus, for this year, you'd get all of them together. It probably gives you the best pass rush in the NFL, and it probably makes you the favorites to not only win the NFC West, but probably to win the Super Bowl. All right, guys, that's enough Micah Parsons talk for one night. We'll probably talk about him again tomorrow because this is a huge deal. But today I want to talk about Anthony Tyus. He has been signed by the Seattle Seahawks to fill their empty running back slot. Obviously, they just lost Kenny McIntosh, so they probably are looking for a 4th running back on the roster to join Charbonnet, Walker, and Martinez. They signed Anthony Tyus on Tuesday. He's a rookie. They also did waive another running back, Donovan Kaufman. Tyus went undrafted this offseason. He went to Ohio University, not to be confused with Ohio State University. Ohio University, the Bobcats. He had 1,215 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns last season with the Bobcats. Also caught 16 passes for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was all second team MAC conference. So, yeah, he had a good season, a good senior year. Before that, he played at Northwestern. He played with them for 3 seasons. He had 2 touchdowns and 500 yards. So he really kind of broke out once he got out of the Big Ten and moved to a smaller school at Ohio University. A lot of players do this. I think this is a good signing. I think he could definitely be good on special teams. It seems like they like him at least something because they did waive Donovan Kaufman to make room for him. We'll see if he breaks camp. I'm sure we will see him probably on Thursday even when we play the Raiders. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. And speaking of that Thursday night game, we have some interesting news to talk about. Pete Carroll, former Seahawks head coach, obviously going up against the Seahawks now on Thursday, he says that the starters might be playing for the Raiders on Thursday. So, yeah, that's not something we've seen from Carroll in recent years. Obviously, he's an old-fashioned coach. That is what they used to do, but in his past few seasons with the Seahawks, Pete Carroll kind of went into the mindset of, okay, I'm just going to not play my starters in the first couple of preseason games. But this time he is saying, yeah, he might. He says, quote, everybody's live, everybody's ready to go. That's what he told Tashan Reed of The Athletic. So it's unclear if that actually means they're going to play or if that means that they're just going to go through warm-ups. Obviously, the interesting thing is that 2 of their starters are going to be Geno Smith and Jamal Adams. So, yeah, 2 former Seahawks, 2 former big-time Seahawks. if Geno Smith plays in the first preseason game against the Seahawks, I think that would be really, really exciting stuff for the Seahawks fans, but also for Geno Smith. I mean, in some ways, that would be his revenge game, and it probably would only be for one drive, maybe 2 drives, but still, it would be kind of a revenge game for Geno because the Raiders don't play the Seahawks this year. I think they do play them in 2027, so maybe if he's still with them next year, that could be his true revenge game. But the fact that this is the first preseason game and it's the Seahawks' former coach, former quarterback, and former All-Pro safety, and they all might play, I mean, that is really interesting. On the other hand, Mike McDonald, he says the Seahawks will not be playing their starters, and that makes sense, right? You want to keep your guys healthy. You want to make sure that nobody who needs to the only people who need to play are the guys who are battling for a spot. So you might see the offensive line, some of those guys like a Christian Haynes, he might get some playing time, or an Olu Oluwatimi might get some playing time just because they obviously are still kind of competing to see, where are they going to end up, who's going to be the starting center, who's going to be starting at right guard. That's the real questions. They're not going to start anybody who is locked in as a starter, and that makes sense, right? You don't want to risk those injuries, but Pete Carroll, on the other hand, he might. And I'd be very intrigued to see if Geno Smith does play. Mike McDonald, quote, he says, "We should be cheering Geno. How could you not? We should be cheering those guys. Now, when the ball is snapped, we're going to try to win the game. We're not going to be playing our starters, but we're going to go compete like heck." I think Pete would appreciate that. And he also says he hopes Pete gets a great ovation because he deserves it, and I agree. Pete Carroll, we should give him an ovation in Seattle. I'm not going to be there, but if I was, I would be there to give him an ovation. And yeah, to the fans, if you're there, let me know down in the comments. Would you give him an ovation? I would. I think that's the nice thing to do. I mean, he led your team to a Super Bowl, 11 years being your head coach. No more, 12 years being your head coach. And he had a lot of really memorable moments. So I would absolutely give him an ovation. But let me know down in the comments, how do you guys feel about Pete Carroll coming back to Seattle as a coach? Would you give him that ovation? Does he deserve it? I think he does. But as always, guys, that's going to wrap things up for today. Again, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you want to never miss another breaking news alert. And until next time, until tomorrow, go Seahawks.